Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope all of you are doing well. My name is Dita from 4A Managerial Accounting class number 10 with student ID number 24156444039. In this video, I will discuss and answer the midterm exam question for the accounting information system. So there are three main topics that I will explain in this video. The difference between data and information, the explanation of the production cycle DFD along with its threats and solutions, and a case analysis about weakness in internal control based on COSO components in the expenditure cycle. I will also provide some example and analysis to make the material easier to understand. So, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, let's start with question number 1. So, I will explain the difference between data and information along with examples. Actually, data and information are important concepts in accounting information system or ACE because ACE processes data into useful information for decision making. But what is the difference between them? Data are raw facts that haven't been processed or organized, so they don't have a clear meaning or usefulness for decision making. Data can be numbers, words, symbols, or other facts. By itself, data usually doesn't provide a clear meaning because it has not been connected or analyzed. Meanwhile, information is processed data that has been organized and given context, so it becomes meaningful and useful for decision making. Information can be reports, summaries, conclusion, or result of analysis. Information can help management or users make decisions, evaluate performance, and control business activities. To understand it more clearly, let me give you an example. For example, in an employee payroll system, data is like May 31st, 2026, Budi 150,000 rupiah, 3 million rupiah, 300,000 rupiah, 2.7 million rupiah. These are only separate facts and numbers. So, at this stage, we still don't understand the relationship between them or what the numbers actually mean. But after the data is processed and organized into an employee's salary slip, it becomes meaningful information. For example, there is an employee salary slip with salary period May 31st, 2026, employee name Budi, working days 20 days, daily wage is 150,000 rupiah, the gross salary 3 million rupiah, deduction 300,000 for BPJS and tax, so the net salary received is 2.7 million rupiah. This is called information because the raw data has been processed, organized, and given context in the form of an employee's salary slip. From this information, we can clearly understand the employee's salary calculations, deduction, and final net salary received by the employee. In conclusion, data are raw facts that haven't been processed, while information is processed data that has meaning and value for users. In accounting information system, data transform into information to help business make decisions. So, the quality of information depends on the quality of the data entered into the system. If the data is incorrect or incomplete, the information produced will also be inaccurate. Okay, after understanding the difference between data and information, let's move to the next discussion. In question number 2, I will explain the production cycle diagram along with its threats and solutions. Let's start the discussion for question number 2. First, we can look at this level 0 data flow diagram in production cycle. So, this diagram shows how the production process works, starting from product design, until cost recording and reporting. And from the diagram, we can see if there are four main processes in the production cycle. So this diagram starts with the first process, which is product design. In this process, the company designs the product that will be produced, and the process receives input in the form of cost information or cost data from the cost accounting process, which is used to help the company design products efficiently and profitably. And based on this input, the product design process produces the operation list, which contain the production step and raw material requirement information that will be stored in the bill of materials database. And the operation list and bill of material can also be reused by the product design process if the company wants to update the product design. And the operation list and bill of materials also sent to the second process, which is planning and scheduling. And besides operation list and bill of materials, this process also receives several inputs, including customer orders and sales forecasts from the revenue cycle, which are used to determine how many products should be produced. And then the raw material list from the expenditure cycle, which contains the information about raw materials that are available, finished goods data used to check the amount of available finished good inventory so the company can decide whether additional production is needed. And then available labor data from the HRM or payroll cycle to determine whether there are enough workers for the production process. After receiving all of these inputs, the system processes the data to determine production quantities, schedule production, and determine raw material and labor requirements. And as a result, this process produces purchase requisition that sent to the expenditure cycle to purchase raw materials if inventory is not available, and then update to the production order database, updates to the raw materials list database to adjust raw material usage and requirements, and also send the labor requirements to the HRM or payroll cycle. And in addition, this process also updates the work in process data, because at this stage the company starts planning production activities, so the system needs to record products that are currently being processed. And then the next process is production operation. So this process receives inputs in the form of production order, material requisition, and move ticket from the planning and scheduling process. And at this stage, the production activities carried out directly to transform raw materials into finished goods. And the outputs of this process are updates to work in process data to record the progress of products still being processed, and also updates to the production order to show the production status. After that, the job time tickets, move tickets, and material requisitions, which are sent to the next process, namely cost accounting, as the basis for calculating production costs. So the last process is cost accounting. This process receives input in the form of bill of materials, operation list, work in process data, labor costs from HRM or payroll cycle, and also job time tickets, move tickets, and raw material requisition from the production operation process, and also raw material and overhead costs from the expenditure cycle. This process is used to calculate production costs, calculate the cost of goods manufactured, and record the company production costs. And the output of this process are reports that sent to the management for decision making, and also cost of goods manufactured that sent to general ledger and reporting system, and also updates to finished goods database to record completed products. And finished goods also sent to the revenue cycle so the product can be sold to the customer. Besides understanding the flow of the production cycle, company also need to be aware of several threats that may occur in each activity of the production cycle. So, because of that, I will explain 4 examples of threats and their solutions. The first threat is threat in product design, which is poor design resulting in cost overruns. This can happen when the product design is too complex, raw materials are used inefficiently, or the design doesn't consider production costs. As a result, production costs increase, company profit decrease, and the product becomes less competitive. And to prevent this threat, the company can perform accounting analysis of product design costs to check whether the product design causes high production costs, and analysis of warranty and repair costs to identify product design problems that may increase repair costs. So the purpose of this solution is to help the company choose an efficient product design while still meeting the customer needs. And the second threat is overproduction or underproduction. So this happens when the company makes mistakes in production planning. If the company produces too many products, inventory will accumulate and storage costs will increase. On the other hand, if the production is too low, the company may fail to meet the customer demand. And the solutions are: the company should use a production planning system to help the company plan the right amount of production. And the company also should review and improving production schedule to reduce the planning mistakes, and restricting access to production orders and production schedules to prevent unauthorized changes to production data. And the third threat is the threat in production operations, which is theft of inventory. This may happen because of weak warehouse supervision, lack of inventory movement documentation, or unrestricted access to inventory. As a result, the company may suffer financial losses and inventory data becomes inaccurate. And the solutions to prevent this problem: the first, the company should do a physical access control to prevent unauthorized people from accessing inventory, and also documentation of all inventory movements to monitor inventory movement, separations of duties to reduce the risk of fraud, and periodic physical inventory counts and reconciliation to ensure physical inventory matches the inventory records. And the last threat is inaccurate cost accounting data in cost accounting process. This may happen because production costs are recorded incorrectly, or employees make mistakes when entering cost data into the system. As a result, the product costs become inaccurate and financial reports may contain errors. And the solutions of this threat: the first is automation of source data collection to reduce human error when recording production costs. For example, the company can use a barcode system or integrated accounting software to automatically record the raw material usage, labor costs, and production quantities into the cost accounting system. And the second solution is data processing integrity controls to ensure that cost data is processed accurately, completely, and consistently. For example, the system can automatically validate the data entries, detect the duplicate inputs, and calculate production costs based on the formulas. So in conclusion, the production cycle consists of several interconnected activities including product design, planning and scheduling, production operation, and cost accounting. And each activity may face different threats, so the company needs proper internal controls to ensure that the production process runs effectively and efficiently. So that's all my explanation to the question number 2. Alright, now let's move to the question number 3, or the last question. So in this section, I will analyze the weakness of internal control in the expenditure cycle of ABC MSMEs based on the COSO framework. But before discussing the analysis, let me explain the case description. So, ABC MSMEs is a small business that produces frozen food products such as chicken nugget, siomai, and dim sum. The business has 12 employees and has operated since 2022. However, in March 2026, the owner of the business, Mrs. Rani, found several irregularities in the company expenditure cycle, such as purchase in payment process weakness, duplicate payment to supplier, cash difference and weak petty cash control, and weak accounting information system. And because of these irregularities, students are asked to act as mini internal auditors to conduct an initial investigation into the company expenditure cycle. So I will explain the weak points of internal control one by one. And in the case, there are 4 initial findings, but here I divide them into 5 weak points. So let's move to the case analysis. The first weak point is no formal purchase requisition or PR document. The production department can directly purchase materials without an approved purchase request first. This shows that company doesn't have a proper purchasing authorization procedure. And this weakness is related to COSO components such as control activities, because there is no proper purchasing authorization procedure, and also control environment, because the company doesn't have a clear policies and responsibilities. And because of this, there are some potential risks because there is no formal PR document, so employees can purchase raw materials without approval from management. The first potential is unauthorized purchase may occur, and an excessive purchase may happen. The company may buy unnecessary item, and the risk of fraud becomes higher. In addition, purchase made without supervision can cause cost efficiency and make company expenses difficult to control. And there are recommended solutions. So the company should create a simple purchase requisition form, require approval from the owner or operational manager before purchasing, and allow purchase orders to be created only after the PR has been approved. So this procedure is important because the PR document acts as evidence that the purchase has been reviewed and authorized properly. Even though the MSMEs have limited employees, simple authorization procedure can still help reduce errors and fraud. And the second weak is lack of proper segregation of duties. So Dina, as the administrative staff, has 2 responsibilities at the same time. So she can create a purchase order and record accounting transaction. This shows that the authorization and recording function are not separated properly. And this weakness is related to control activities in COSO component, especially the principle of segregation of duties. In a good internal control, authorization, recording, and asset custody should be handled by different people. Because Dina handles several important functions at the same time, one person has too much control over the purchasing process. As a result, there are some potential risks, such as the risk of fraud increase, fictitious transactions may be created, accounting records may be manipulated, and errors or mistakes may not be detected. Because when duties are not separated properly, employees may abuse their authority more easily. And there are some solutions, but because MSMEs have limited employees, the company can apply compensating controls. For example, Dina may still create a purchase order and record transaction, but all the purchase order and payment lists must be reviewed and approved by Mrs. Rani or the owner before the payment is made. And this review process is important because this solution provides supervision and reduces fraud opportunities. In addition, the owner should regularly reconcile transactions, compare invoice with payment records, and review purchasing documents every week. This control can help detect error and suspicious transactions earlier. And the third weak point is duplicate payments to supplier. So there are duplicate payments to the supplier, which is PT Sumber Pangan Sejahtera. The same invoice was paid twice because the treasurer received another copy of the invoice without knowing that the invoice had already been paid before. This shows that the company doesn't have a proper payment verification procedure. And related COSO components from this weakness is monitoring, because the company doesn't regularly review the payment transaction, and also the information and communication, because payment status information is not communicated properly to the treasurer. And because the company doesn't verify invoice properly before payment, there are some potential risks, such as the company may suffer the financial loss, overpayment to supplier may happen, company cash may decrease unnecessarily, and financial records become inaccurate, and also the risk of fraud increase. Because if this situation continues, the company cash may decrease without paying notice. And the recommended solution that the company should do is, the first is stamp invoice with paid after payment. The second is create a simple payment register, record invoice numbers, payment dates and payment amounts, and verify invoice before making payments. So the paid stamp is important because it clearly shows that an invoice has already been settled. Meanwhile, the payment register helps employees track which invoices are unpaid and which are already paid. And the fourth weak point is cash difference and weak petty cash control. There is initial finding where the cash difference is 4,850,000 rupiah in the company petty cash. In addition, some expense receipts were not signed by the receiver, and some expenses were only recorded as operational expenses without clear details. This shows the weak control over petty cash and supporting transaction documents. And related COSO components from this weak point, the first is control activities, because physical control over cash and supporting documents is weak, and monitoring, because there are no regular cash inspection or reconciliation. And there are some potential risks, such as cash may be measured, fraud becomes difficult to detect, financial reports may become inaccurate, and the company may experience financial losses. Because without complete documents, the company also cannot easily prove the validity of transactions during audits or tax examination. And there are 5 solutions to handle this problem. The company should use pre-numbered petty cash vouchers, and they require signatures from money recipients, record expense details completely, apply an impress fund system, and conduct a surprise cash inspection regularly. So pre-numbered vouchers are useful because missing documents can be detected more easily, and also the impress fund system helps to control the petty cash because the balance is fixed and refilled only based on valid supporting documents. And the last weakness is weak accounting information system. So ABC MSMEs still use a simple cashier application and Excel without access restriction. So all administrative staff can edit the files and there are no data backups or change logs. These show weak data security and weak information system control. And related COSO components from this week, the first is information and communication because the quality of accounting information becomes unreliable, and control activities because controls over the information system are very weak. And there are some potential risks too. The first is data may be manipulated. Important files or important data may be lost or deleted accidentally. Financial reports may become inaccurate and unauthorized access may occur. In addition, because there are no backups, the company may permanently lose the important transaction data if files are deleted. And the solutions that the company should do, first is use password for important files, limit editing access only to authorized employees, perform regular data backups, and create simple change logs or audit trails. Because password protection helps prevent unauthorized access to important accounting data. And access restrictions are important to ensure that only responsible employees can edit the financial information. So in conclusion, ABC MSMEs still has several weaknesses in its expenditure cycle, and this weakness increases the risk of fraud, financial losses, and inaccurate financial reporting. So the ABC MSMEs needs a stronger internal control based on the COSO framework to improve the operational effectiveness.
Alright, so that's the end of my presentation and discussion about the 3 questions from the Accounting Information System midterm exam. I hope this presentation can help us understand the importance of Accounting Information System more clearly and practically. Thank you for your attention and for watching this video. See you and have a great day everyone.